Howdy folks, I'm Audacious Alligator, audibly arguing with antsy antelopes.
I'm Amber.
And here are more antsy antelopes for us to argue with. I wonder why they're antsy. Could it be that I'm an alligator?
And our theme is Halloween costumes.
So yes, I'm the alligator in the elevator eating an antsy antelope.
The alligator in the elevator doesn't eat anyone. You would know that if you heard the song all the way through.
But I haven't. And so that poor antelope has gotten eaten.
I don't think the alligator in the elevator eats anyone. It's a children's song, so.
Let's get started. Our first course on meal is titled, Am I a Jerk? My boyfriend, a 29-year-old male, is mad at me for cleaning his toilet. How do I make him realize that it's gross? And I guess this one isn't a Am I the Jerk one.
I thought you were going to say this one isn't a meal, but...
It might be a meal. Just wait till the end. Edit to add, you all are tripping if you think that I'm going to leave a man making $90K a year that treats me wonderfully because I'm embarrassed about him having a dirty toilet, acting like he doesn't clean anything because I said one part of his home was severely lacking. As the title says, I wanted to surprise my boyfriend by going to his place while he was at work. He had a key made for me and told me that I can come over whenever I want to. We've been together for 2 years, so I felt comfortable doing this. I cleaned his whole apartment for him and was waiting for him to come home to surprise him. Well, he did come home. He saw the apartment was all clean, and I did not get the reaction that I was expecting. His first words were, "Oh, did you clean the bathroom too?" Of course I cleaned the bathroom. His inside of the toilet was growing black specks of mold. I bleached and I scrubbed the toilet. He told me that he was growing an experiment. Why would you do that? It was growing up the top of the toilet seat. For the record, we spend a majority of our time at my house. He was visibly upset. He said that he had named it Timmy and that I had no right to come in and start girlifying his place. After the initial shock, he did thank me for cleaning up his place, but said that I should have asked first, but I wanted it to be a surprise. I told him that if we're going to move in together by next April like we plan, then he can't be growing weird stuff, pun intended, in the toilets. He said that he understands, but for now we're living separately so he can grow his science experiments in his own house all he wants. The advice that I'm looking for is how to make him realize that it's literally disgusting and I was just trying to help. Also, how do I make it up to him? As weird as it is, he seems proud of it? Please help. Edit, some of you all are incredibly mean. To a handful of you with actual advice, hats off to you. Thank you, I appreciate it more than you know. I plan to have a conversation with him about the dangers of his nasty toilet and how it's risking the health of me and my child, not just him. Because, to be honest, he may not be aware of the actual danger and biohazard that it is/was. Some of you have pointed out that he actually was just embarrassed because he knew that it was gross and he was being lazy and didn't know how to express that. And Timmy was just a cover-up of sorts. I believe this to be true. Regardless, I feel that after the conversation, it won't be an issue moving forward. Thanks for all the helpful advice. And for those of you who had nothing to offer except calling him disgusting and tearing down another human being asking for help, I hope you stub your toe so hard that your toenail falls off. Edit 2. You all keep acting like I'm his mommy. But since you know so little about him, you don't know that he never had a mother or much of a father. He's been on his own a majority of his life, which could explain why some of his skills are lacking. He's willing to change and learn. He's been in therapy by choice. He's not stuck in his ways like some of you are insisting. It's not my favorite thing in the world that I have to teach him some of these things, but I'm understanding some things are instilled in you as a child from your parents, something you never really had. Stop being so hateful. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I know it's not a question of are you the jerk or not, but I do think it's worth noting that you probably should consult people generally before cleaning their house.
Yeah.
You know, because like it is his private space, and so I can understand why he'd want a heads up beforehand. I mean, I understand OP was trying to do something nice, but sometimes people may not appreciate having their house surprise cleaned. As for the rest of it, yeah, mold can be a health hazard. It is not a good thing to have around your house. If it's visible, that's a really bad sign. So I don't think that, you know, getting rid of a biohazard, you know, it kind of had to be done, whether by OP or by her partner. And I think having a conversation with him about the dangers of mold, like depending on what type of mold it is, if it's actual black mold, that's some of the worst you can have, from what I understand in terms of like the health effects, and you do not want to be breathing that in, breathing those spores in. So yeah, I do think it's worth having a conversation around that and making sure he understands the health ramifications.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it was probably mildew, given that it's in a bathroom in a wet and damp environment. That still, isn't great, and of course you want to eliminate mildew as well. I think that OP, like you said, shouldn't have gone into his house without asking him first, because again, he may have actually taken some time and cleaned stuff beforehand, right? He may have just been really resistant and didn't want to admit to the whole, oh, I just didn't clean very often, right?
Right. And I mean, I'm hoping that's more the case, but it also doesn't bode well if he just like covers up and lies about that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if this is sincerely something that he wanted to do a science experiment on, then I mean, I think that there are certainly like explaining the hazards of that, maybe even investigating if this is kind of compulsive behavior, like because sometimes people will do things like collect napkins, right? Because it reminds them of something that an event that they had, right? Or if he has like sentimental attachments to things that are unhealthy to have sentimental attachments to, then certainly is a room for him to discuss in therapy, and it might be a good idea to suggest for him to bring that up in therapy, right?
yeah, although the one thing that really makes me think this is just a cover up is why the toilet?
Yeah, because there are a lot of other things that he could have fostered a science experiment in, right?
Right. If I was doing a science experiment, I would want it to be like in a isolated container because,
Yeah.
You can't really do an experiment well when you're constantly introducing other elements, the water, the toilet flushing, and everything else.
Yeah. So maybe he meant like, oh, I just wanted to see how much it would grow how far I could get it to grow up. And maybe that was the case. Like maybe he just didn't realize that you couldn't actually like that the breathing the spores in is certainly not good. And I don't know. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt to some degree, especially given his background here, right? So it seems like OP and him are trying to work together and move forward. I think that OP was sweet to try and doing a favor for him. But again, like, it's really hard because you don't necessarily want people in your house when you're not around cleaning it. And clean to OP might be very different from clean to him.
Yeah, well, and also if she's trying to help teach him life skills, it's important that he's there for the process so he can take part because he's not going to learn through OP cleaning his house.
Yeah, he needs to visualize and help, right? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to let my therapist take a break during our session because of her diabetes? I'm a 29-year-old female, and I've been seeing my therapist, Dr. S, a 42-year-old female, for a few months now. She's generally been great, but recently something's happened that really threw me off. Dr. S has type 1 diabetes, which she mentioned in passing early on. I didn't think much of it at the time because it didn't seem relevant to me. Well, last week, during a particularly intense session where I was finally opening up about some deep childhood trauma, she suddenly interrupted me and asked if we could pause so she could check her blood sugar. She said that she was feeling low and needed a quick snack to avoid any issues. I was right in the middle of pouring my heart out, and this completely derailed my train of thought. I got really frustrated, and I told her that I didn't think that was fair for her to take personal breaks during my paid hour. I paid a lot for therapy and I expected her full attention, especially when I'm discussing something this serious. She looked shocked and said that she couldn't focus properly if her blood sugar was low, and that she would only need a couple of minutes. But I stood my ground and I told her that I was paying for her time, and that if she couldn't manage her condition better, maybe she shouldn't schedule back-to-back clients. The session ended awkwardly after that, and now I'm wondering if I overreacted. A few friends that I told said that I was being selfish, but others agree that when you're paying for a service, you expect full professionalism. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yes, major jerk. We're talking about a health emergency. You know, if she, sometimes I understand that OP paid money and was in a really emotionally vulnerable state. So I can definitely understand OP's frustration here. But when someone is having a medical situation, it's important that they rectify that. You know, and if she had had some other medical issue, hopefully OP wouldn't have been like, no, you just have to like sit there having a heart attack because this is my session time. You know, it was really not cool to deny her this and to also blame her because, I mean, I don't have any experience personally with diabetes, but from what I understand, people can plan things, but sometimes, you know, you just like something has more or less sugar than you expect or something like that. Like things have natural variations. And so she may very well just not have been aware until she starts feeling low and then is like, oh, I need a snack.
Yeah, diabetes is a really dangerous condition, or can be if it's not well managed. And I can certainly understand her wanting to take time to basically take care of herself. And that's really understandable because it is a medical emergency at a certain point, right? Now, I think that maybe she should have made it a little bit more clear when she mentioned her diabetes at first, that there may be times when she has to take a break for giving herself food. Like maybe she thought mentioning this would foster understanding, but I think explicitly laying that expectation out for her sessions would have been a good idea and could have avoided this situation that arose. And that's not to fault her for her condition, but I think it's important to outline your expectations in therapy that you have a medical condition and it sometimes needs urgent care. So, and she can say, I try my best to manage it. I do everything that I can to make sure that it won't be an interruption, but there may be situations where it's unavoidable and I have to actually take my blood sugar and, get a snack or something. So I'm not, again, blaming her, but I think that having that conversation early on could have gone a long way.
Well, and like OP is probably going to have to find a new therapist at this point in time anyway, because whatever trust they had formed during those sessions has now been shattered.
Yeah.
So this was not only like a danger to the therapist potentially, but also not good to OP either because it breaks that trust in that relationship they had. Because if I were the therapist, I wouldn't want to see a client who I know is going to force me to do something dangerous just so they get their full therapy session. And like the therapist probably should have offered to comp her like 5 minutes of time or something like that because of this. But like I think OP's response was just completely unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that if it was money that was the concern, then the therapist could have said, well, if it's money you really care about, then I mean, certainly I'll make sure that you aren't charged the whole amount or something like that, right? And I just feel bad for the therapist here because, again, OP was putting her health on the line because they were worried about their bottom line, right? Which I think is not a great attitude to have. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment OP's earned. The jerk that we needed. I mean, no. Maybe the wheel needs a little bit of a nap.
Yeah, I think the wheel did not do well with this one.
And Blue Green 1956 says, you're the jerk. You really are a jerk. Nothing more needs to be said. And My Name Could Be Sam says, you're the jerk. If she passed out, she's no good to you. That's what happens when diabetics go low. Try to show some basic human empathy, or at least remember that keeping your therapist conscious is in your best interest. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, My Dad Said That He Was Sad to Never Have Had a Son to Pass the Family Name On to. He and my grandfather were very elated when my male cousin was born. For the record, I fish and hunt with my dad, and he never excluded his daughters from doing anything they wanted. We all got nostalgic, and I asked him if he regrets having only girls. For the record, if your daughter ever asks you this, say no, even if you have to lie. He said yes, but only because he wanted to pass on the family name. But he feels okay now because of my cousin. People My surname is Jones. Whatever is the problem here? All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
I mean, people take these family names thing way too seriously. Yeah, I think that what he said was he should have been more thoughtful with his words. I mean, I know OP opened the can of worms by asking, but it's 2024. There's nothing stopping people from keeping their names, from hyphenating names. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And having a son doesn't guarantee you're going to have a grandchild with your last name.
I think that everyone's kind of a little bit in the wrong here. You should not ask questions that you don't want the answer to, right?
You generally shouldn't. And sometimes people just want to be reassured
Yeah.
and feel like they're valued. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I think what probably opened it up was seeing her dad's reaction to, like, the male cousin being born.
Yeah.
And, like, if he's that much more excited than he was for his daughters, that's concerning.
Yeah, and I certainly think like that does add a lot of concern to the situation. And so I think that where all I was going with that is like there are certainly some questions that you shouldn't ask if you don't really if you're not prepared to have the answer, then maybe it's not a good question for you to ask. You should, examine your feelings and say, how am I going to react if this is not a answer that I like or whatnot, right? Because at that point in time, you're just expecting someone to lie to you to reassure you. And not everyone operates like that. And certainly, like, I think that the dad's attitude that, oh, I wanted to have a son to pass my name onto really isn't a good one. He should be happy to just have daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think that it's a little bit difficult in that respect, because it's like, first, you shouldn't really ask questions that you don't want the actual answers to, but also don't be sexist.
Well, yeah. And, love your children for who they are. Don't put, expectations about them having kids or not on there. It's a pressure to shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be the family legacy now. You're going to pass on our name.
Well, and that's going to put a lot of expectation onto that cousin too, right? Because like that cousin now is going to be the only one who can pass on the family name type of situation. I think then that's horribly misguided for them, right? Like, what's to say that OP's husband couldn't take on their name, right?
Right. And that's the thing is like, it's, again, 2024, people can have whatever names they want. Having a child of a particular gender doesn't guarantee you're going to get a grandchild with that last name.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Baba1 says, that's funny. I also have a super rare surname. We are all related, but my father and his brothers only had daughters. They totally don't care, by the way, but you could always give your surname to your kids. My cousins didn't, and none of us took the surnames of our husbands. It's not a thing in Italy. And OP replies, the funny thing is that my mom's surname is Nixmalo, although that's not totally uncommon in my country. But it's a much more rare name than Jones.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber has a joke that will tickle our funny bones.
What starts with an E, ends with an E, but only has one letter?
What starts with an E and ends with an E, but only has one letter.
Mm-hmm. Broken Brian.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm also not particularly swift today, so there is that. I mean, if I have to go very literally, it's the letter E.
An envelope.
Oh, letter, yes.
I was actually sure you were going to get that one. I was like, Brian's going to guess this one outright.
Like I said, I'm not very quick today. I'm not quick on the uptake, folks. So that's why I didn't get it. And I have licorice spice. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy, fantastic Friday, folks. I can't believe it. We made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it on treating your therapist like a human being.
treat your therapists and other people who provide you services like human beings. Don't see everything as purely transactional and value everyone's help.
I agree. I agree. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Don't worry, I am recording so they can hear all of your nose blowing sounds.